As promised, I'm going to help you through your homework, the complete the square homework. The first one on there was n squared minus 2n minus 15. And I just want you to solve or rewrite this, completing the square. You don't need to solve for anything. So the first thing I'm going to do is take n squared minus 2n plus some perfect square, and I'm kicking negative 15 out over here. Then I take half of negative 2, which is negative 1, and square it. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. I add 1 in here, so I subtract 1 out here. So that combines to be negative 16. And then I rewrite this as a perfect square. Half of negative 2 was negative 1, so n minus 1 squared. Next one. This one, number 2, x plus 9 squared equals 27. No rewriting needed, just solve it. The inverse of squaring is square root. X plus 9 equals plus or minus radical 27. And that's not a perfect square, so I am just going to leave it as an exact number and subtract 9. Negative 9 plus or minus radical 27. That's it. Next problem. M squared minus 2m minus 8 equals 0. So you could factor this through, or you can solve this through factoring, but you don't need to now that we know how to do the completing the square method. I could say m squared minus 2m plus some perfect square number, kicking negative 8 on the outside. Half of negative 2 is negative 1, squared is 1, so I subtract 1 from here, which gives me negative 9. And then I rewrite this as m minus 1 squared. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. Now I can solve it. Add 9 to both sides. M minus 1 squared equals 9. Take the square root, which means m minus 1 equals plus or minus 3. So m minus 1 equals 3, or m minus 1 equals negative 3. Add 1, m equals 4, add 1, m equals negative 2. On the back, we have a squared plus 14a minus 51 equals 0. And to solve this using completing the squares, a squared plus 14a plus some perfect square number, kicking negative 51 on the outside. Half of 14 is 7. 7 squared is 49. Add 49, so subtract 49. Grab my calculator. Negative 51 minus 49 is negative 100. Still equal to 0. And I'm going to rewrite this as a perfect square. It comes from a plus half of 14 is 7 squared. Now I can solve it. Add 100 to both sides. A plus 7 squared equals 100. And inverse of squaring is square root. Remember, square root of 100 is plus or minus 10. And this is a plus 7. So a plus 7 equals 10. A plus 7 equals negative 10. And solve. A equals 3, or a equals negative 17. Number 5, x squared plus 14x minus 15 equals 0. I'm going to use my same process. I could factor it. I'm going to use completing the squares. X squared plus 14x plus some perfect square, kicking minus 15 on the outside. Half of 14 is 7. 7 squared is 49. So subtract 49 here to keep it equivalent. Negative 15 minus 49 is negative 64. And then I rewrite this as a perfect square. Half of 14 again was 7, so it's x plus 7 squared. And solve. I add 64 to both sides. X plus 7 squared equals 64. Inverse of squaring is square root. So x plus 7 equals plus or minus 8. I need to solve those two. X plus 7 equals 8. X plus 7 equals negative 8. Subtract 7. X equals 1. Subtract 7. X equals negative 15. Last problem, n squared minus 18n equals 40. If I want to complete this square, I am going to have to just put a third term in there. There was nothing on the outside that I needed to kick out. But I'm still going to look at half of negative 18. That is negative 9. Negative 9 squared is 81. If I added 81 in here, I've got to take 81 away from there to keep the equivalence. So now I bring that all down, and I rewrite this as a perfect squared factored completed square. So n minus 9 squared. Now I can solve. Add 81 to both sides. N minus 9 squared equals 40 plus 81 is 121. Take the square root. N minus 9 equals plus or minus 11. And now I solve those two. N minus 9 equals 11. And n minus 9 equals negative 11. So add 9. Oops, that should be a 9. N equals 20. Add 9. N equals 9, 10, 11, negative 2. There's your two possible solutions. All right, that's your homework. Hope you got it done. Have a good weekend.